Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to dive into the origin story of maybe the most famous rebel in all of history. We're looking at a theological take on how a perfect being, an angel of pure light, could kick off a cosmic war of ideas. A war that, as you'll see, is still being fought today. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to follow this character's journey from start to finish. From his perfect creation, to that tiny seed of rebellion, the lies he spun, and what happened after the fall. It's quite a story.
Okay, first things first. To really feel the weight of the fall, you've got to understand just how high he was before it all came crashing down. So who was this guy, really? What was he like at the very beginning?
Let's start with the name, Hellel. It says so much. In Hebrew, the root word halal literally means to shine or to praise. In fact, it's the root of the word fallujah. Think about that. In other languages, you might know him as Lucifer, which means light bearer, or as the morning star. Everything about him screamed light and purpose. And we're not just talking about being good-looking here. The scripture goes way beyond that, describing him as absolutely flawless. It uses this phrase, signet of perfection. What does that even mean? Well, think of a signet ring pressing into wax. It leaves a perfect, exact impression. That was him, a perfect, beautiful reflection of his creator's power and artistry. Just wow.
And get this, he wasn't just some rank-and-file angel. No way. This interpretation paints him as a top-tier official, like a C-suite executive in the cosmic government. He was the guardian cherub, right at God's throne, the worship leader for all of heaven. And he held the roles of king, priest, and prophet all rolled into one. I mean, he was at the absolute center of everything.
So you've got this perfect being, right at the top, seemingly flawless. The big question is, what went wrong? How could perfection itself become corrupted? This right here, this is the turning point of the entire story. And the source text is pretty clear about where it started. It wasn't some outside force tempting him. Nope. It was born right inside his own heart. A private thought that grew into this massive, audacious ambition. I will raise my throne. I will make myself like the Most High. He wanted the top job. He wanted to be God. But, okay, how do you even attempt a coup against an all-powerful being? You're not going to win a physical fight, right? So according to this interpretation, he knew he couldn't use brute force. His plan had to be way smarter. It had to be an attack on ideas. The goal was to take the throne, but to do that, he had to first attack God's authority, his very name. And his target? The one thing holding everything together, the law of love. Exactly. So his weapon wasn't a physical one. It was an idea, a lie. He launched what was basically a cosmic misinformation campaign aimed directly at God's character. And it was a brilliant but terrible argument. It sounds so logical on the surface, which is what makes it so dangerous. It goes like this. Step 1, claim that God's law of love is impossible for anyone to actually follow. Step 2, if that's true, then God is a liar for demanding the impossible. And step 3, the conclusion. God isn't a loving creator, he's a tyrant who sets up his creatures to fail just so he can condemn them. See how it works? It's a poison pill of an argument. And let's be really clear here, this wasn't just some minor disagreement. This was a charge of cosmic murder. Hellel was basically accusing God of creating beings just to watch them fail, and then destroy them, with the law of love as the murder weapon. This is the argument that literally split heaven in two. And you can actually see this exact line of thinking play out in the story of Job. It's Satan's whole case, laid bare. He argues that nobody, not even Job, loves God for who he is. It's all just transactional. They're only obedient because of the blessings. His bet is simple. Take away the stuff, and Job will curse God to his face. It's the same accusation. Love and obedience aren't real. It's just self-interest. So, this war of words, this cosmic legal battle against God, well, it had catastrophic consequences. The verdict came down, and it was decisive. Hell was kicked out, cast out from his high and holy position. That guardian cherub who used to walk among the fiery stones, a symbol of being in God's immediate holy presence, was gone. But here's the thing. He didn't go alone. So you might be wondering, how many angels actually followed him? Well, there are a few different takes on this. The most well-known interpretation, based on a passage in Revelation, suggests that a full third of the angels fell. Other views look at it more symbolically, maybe 1 in 12, kind of like Judas among the disciples. But it's really important to stress that these are interpretations of symbolic language, not a literal census. The exact number isn't really the point. The point is that his rebellion wasn't a solo act. It caused a massive, devastating split in heaven.
Okay, now this next bit is a really fascinating piece of symbolic detective work. Remember how Hellel was covered in 9 precious stones? Well, if you compare that to the 12 stones on the high priest's breastplate in the Old Testament, something's missing. 3 stones are gone, specifically the ones from the 3rd row. Now, what does that mean? Theologians debate it, but it's this powerful visual hint that even in his perfection, something crucial was missing from his character.
And this brings us to a really crucial distinction: the difference between Hellel's fall and Adam's fall. Think about it. Hellel's fall was a calculated, premeditated rebellion. It was a power grab, pure and simple, fueled by pride. Adam's fall? Totally different. He was deceived, and his motivation was a kind of misguided love for Eve. He didn't want to be separated from her. And according to this theological view, that difference in motive, pride versus deception, is the key reason why humanity got a path to redemption and Hellel didn't.
All right, so let's bring this home, because this whole story isn't presented as just some ancient myth that happened a long time ago. No, this interpretation sees it as a conflict that's still playing out right now, and that we're all a part of.
So, when Hellel fell, it wasn't just a change in location. He abandoned his job, his whole purpose. He was supposed to be the guardian of God's law, the high priest for the angels, the worship leader, the perfect mirror of God's truth, and he just walked away from all of it. And this is where it gets really personal. The central idea here is that the mission Hellel abandoned, it didn't just disappear. That job opening for an anointed guardian, a king, a priest, a prophet, it was transferred. The responsibility that he threw away is now being offered to us, to humanity.
So at the end of the day, this whole thing is a huge cautionary tale, isn't it? Hellel was given everything: beauty, wisdom, strength, you name it. But instead of using those gifts to point back to the one who gave them, he used them to point to himself, to build his own brand, basically. And that's how this ancient story becomes a mirror for our own lives, forcing us to ask what we're doing with the gifts we've been given.
And that brings us to the final, challenging thought this story leaves us with. It takes this huge cosmic drama and boils it down to one very personal question. See, Hellel wasn't judged for having power, he was judged for how he used it. And the story ends by turning the spotlight right on us, asking the same thing. You have power, you have gifts. Where are they pointed?